Toronto Blue Jay swings a slur and strikes out.
Richard Simmons sues for being called trans.
And if you ban the police from Pride, are you still being inclusive? Coming up today on The Point. Hello and welcome to The Point, the only talk show bringing gay and straight men together to see what happens. Every time I do that, there's something going on over here. What's in that cup?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, I won't. Okay, so Matt is still away. He's still performing in Prince Edward Island. So Tegan Reamsbottom is back with us.
Yes, thank you.
Hello.
And we have a special guest today, Bryn Hendricks, a community activist who has also done work with an organization called Not My Pride. And we're going to get into this sticky wicket having to do with pride and all that stuff. But Tito, you were just, before we started rolling, you were going on and on about cheese. What is this about cheese? This week in cheese news.
I woke up to news that Jaden Smith was upset that the hotel he was staying at in Toronto put cheese on his pancakes.
Riveting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tito. I also want to mention before we go on that Doug Ben, is ill today, so he's not with us.
Poor guy.
For the day. He's home in bed, so
Get better soon, Ben.
get well.
Ben, Doug, Ben.
What is in that
I
cup?
don't know.
Okay.
I didn't have my sleep last night.
Actually, we have a serious topic to talk here with Bryn. Okay, this has to do with Pride, specifically Toronto Pride, but it's a bigger issue than that because this issue has come up again and again at Pride celebrations, frankly, across North America. There was a similar protest in Boston a couple of years ago. Vancouver has dealt with this issue. Other prides. Okay, so last year at Toronto Pride, the organization Black Lives Matter Toronto, the Toronto chapter of BLM, they were the honored group in the parade. So they were leading the parade, or one of the groups leading the parade. Once they got sort of halfway through the parade route, they sat down and held a kind of a sit-in, a protest, and halted the parade for about 30 minutes, demanding that Pride Toronto agree to their demands having to do with what they allege as Pride's history of anti-blackness. And I hope I'm getting that correctly. So at the time, Toronto Pride, the then executive director signed off on a document saying we agreed to all your demands, and the parade carried on. Then the very next day, the then executive director said he only signed it to get the parade moving. He didn't really agree with the demands. Then over the winter, at Pride's annual general meeting, those who attended, members of the Pride Committee, agreed to all of Black Lives Matter demands. Most of the demands, I think 9 out of the 10 demands, were not controversial. It was like, there were different performance areas for different groups, performers of color, reinstate them. Nobody had a problem with that. The one big issue was the banning of police groups from marching in the parade, particularly the Toronto Police Department. Then comes Bryn Hendricks and this other group called Not My Pride, basically saying, and I'll let Bryn explain it more fully, but basically, if you're not going to allow the police department to march in Pride, you're not being inclusive. Therefore, we have to look at creating a separate Pride parade, a separate Pride event that is a quote-unquote inclusive parade. Now, before I let Bryn speak, I have to let you know that I did contact Toronto Pride, specifically the new executive director, Olivia Nuama. She did not get back to me. I also contacted Black Lives Matter Toronto. They did get back to me, said they would make someone available to come on the show, but in the end, they did not make someone someone available to come on the show. So, with all that background information, welcome, Bryn.
Thank you.
So what is it that you want to accomplish?
So just a point of clarification. So there was 9 demands that they made, and 8 of those demands, just to give a bit of background, come from a community advisory panel that was created following the issue that happened with Kwaya, which was a similar issue back in 2000.
Queers Against Israeli Apartheid.
Right.
And there was controversy around them marching in the parade.
Yeah, huge controversy, which created the whole funding issue with the city.
Because there was a question of whether or not the city would continue to give funding for the parade. Okay.
Right. So at that point, it was a very divisive issue at that time, and there was an independent panel put together specifically to address this so that in case this happened again, that there would be mechanisms in which to avoid the division that was really occurring from that at that time. And so the Community Advisory Panel, or CAP as it's called, put together an independent report that was probably about 300 pages. They met with over 10,000 people, got lots of opinions and lots of dialogue and feedback from different organizations, and they came up with a series of recommendations. And in those recommendations, of the 9 demands, 8 of those recommendations, or 8 of those demands, were part of the recommendations of the CAP report. So it isn't to say that the demands of Black Lives Matter were, well, certainly I don't think they were necessarily unreasonable. The tactics maybe of the sit-in maybe is debatable, but those recommendations were followed.
Right, but there was the one that has caused the big rift.
Now that's where the issue is, and that was where that caught a lot of people off guard. I think a lot of people thought that was necessarily more of a maybe a PR stunt because people didn't think that it would go through. But then Pride voted on it all as one big package of votes. So they approved that police ban. And at that point, so I personally stayed quiet on this issue from last July until January because I really wanted to learn and I didn't feel it was my place to step in and say anything.
But now you have stepped in.
In January, when the police were banned, I stepped in. And I said, I as a person, I felt it was incumbent upon me to Pride to me is about inclusion. And it cannot ever be born out of exclusion or divisive tactics at all.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the other side says. That it's not really a ban of the police. Gay police officers, specifically LGBTQ police officers, are allowed to march. They just can't march in uniform. Of course, their uniform includes their gun. They can't hold signs that say Toronto Police. They can't drive their squad cars in the parade. But they can still march. They can march with other community groups. In fact, Vancouver just came up with some sort of compromise where there's a smaller contingent of police marching, but then other police can march in just T-shirts, whatever, and march with other community groups. Is that a fair compromise?
So in Toronto, first of all, the challenge is that police are not allowed to march out of uniform for their own protection as part of the police association policy. And so the purpose of that is, of course, if there was a terrorist activity or something, that we wouldn't want police to be walking around with emblems that make them a target, because that would be the first place that you could see a terrorist that might want to attack law enforcement would go with anywhere they see the emblem. So they need to be protected. What we've seen in Vancouver is a little bit different. They are allowing police in uniforms, and then those who are not in uniforms are not wearing T-shirts that represent the police. So therefore, really all they are is marching as city workers, and there's no way that they're identified as police. So it's basically what it amounts to is just a smaller contingent now of police. Personally, I think that's just, to me, that all that is less inclusion. But it is, in some way, some people feel it's a compromise, but here in Toronto, there was, even that was suggested by Councillor Campbell. He suggested...
One of the city councillors.
Yeah, the councillor put forward the motion.
To try to take away, because the city of Toronto gives money to Pride every year.
Right.
And there was a movement then in city council to say, no, we're not going to give you...
We're not going to give it this year.
Right.
So the money had not been granted yet. It was to say, before we give you this money, we want to ensure inclusion as part of the... It's basically, if you're going to get money, this is what you have to do. You have to be inclusive. And so then as part of those discussions with Councillor Campbell and Olivia Nuama from Pride, he suggested the same thing as Vancouver, even if you allowed a contingent, on bicycles in uniform, and the response was absolutely not. And then there was discussions about, whether or not there was even discussions going on between Pride and the police. So I think a lot of people have been thinking that there was these discussions happening since Olivia took over. And I met with her at the end of February to discuss this issue, and she said there would be these discussions. I called her on her cell phone last week, and she indicated there had not been these discussions at all. So it means that in that time frame where people were expecting this to start to come to a resolve, there has been no effort.
Now, New York City, the New York City Police Department has since invited the Toronto Police Department to march with them in the New York parade.
Oh, really? That's cute.
So how does that play into all of this? I mean,
so that's interesting. So that the organization that has invited them is called GOAL, which is Gay Officers Action League, and they invited Toronto, and they also invited Halifax, because Halifax police pulled out as a result of the Toronto decision. So they invited both of them to participate, and so I think two things about that. One, I think it's unfortunate that we live in a city that is now having to take its direction on same-sex human rights and leadership from the United States, which has been 10 years behind on things like same-sex marriage, and certainly, is a far more conservative country, I think, than Canada. That we're having to take our lead from the States on this now. That to me is a bruised eye on the city, but I think it's also commendable of the police force down there to recognize that's necessary for our officers, and I thank them for that.
now, after all of this happened, the Toronto police actually said, you know what, we're not gonna fight this, we're gonna sit this year out. So then Pride is now saying, okay, so problem solved, at least for this year. They're not marching. They volunteered to step out. Number one, and I want to know what the rest of everybody thinks. Was that the right thing for the police to do? And does it put it off to the sideline for the moment? That, okay, we don't have to deal with this year.
So personally, I think that the police chief really had no choice out of respect to the community to do that. Mm-hmm. I think that if you were to see Pride extend an invitation to the police force to say, we'd like you to march in uniforms, the police would say absolutely in a heartbeat. There would be no questions asked. They have done what they've done out of respect, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's commendable, but it should not be necessary for them to do that. And I think that, so just as a quick point on this, I flew out to Vancouver and met with the officers who deal with, he was actually works in the hate crimes unit, deals with Black Lives Matter there and with Pride, and was sort of operating as the liaison there on this very issue. And his statement to me was, Bryn, first of all, a lot of the things that are happening in Vancouver are as a result of what's happened in Toronto. And he said, if you allow for the police to be taken out of the Pride for even 1 year in uniform, it will take a decade, if ever, before they're ever allowed back in. So I think that while the decision is commendable by the chief, I think it is absolutely the wrong decision to have them out of the Parade.
Okay, so I feel like I would be. I have to sort of mention, even though the new executive director of Pride is not here, at least put her position and perhaps understanding Black Lives Matter position into this thing. So she gave it. There was a big story in the Toronto Star, the big newspaper in Toronto, in which she said that it was a considerate thing for the police service to do to step back, engage in willing dialogue and with those people that have expressed concern about their relationship, and then try to plot a way forward. This is a real issue about what it means to celebrate inside the parade with the sight of weapons and the sight of sirens, which are all associated in this community with very negative outcomes. And we've heard this said before from Black Lives Matter during the protest, that there has been so much awfulness between police, not just in Toronto, but all over North America, and communities of color, that it is a feeling of unsafety for these communities to have people in the parade. Now, I'll be honest, the first thing I thought was, but they're still going to have police patrolling the parade, so you're still going to have police with guns at the parade, but not in the parade. And Gordon, I'm going to throw this to you, and I hate to do this, but you are.
I am, no, definitely.
How?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be.
Yeah. And I don't mean for you to represent the entire Black community.
Yeah.
But Is seeing the police take part in a community event, does that give you or your community a feeling of unsafety? And therefore, is it better to not have the police as an official entity in the celebration?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that like it's definitely good that like we have something to represent us, right? Like Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter was born out of the brutality against people of color, right? Black people and other people of color. But you know, like I think that it's kind of like it's hard to explain because it's not unsafety, but it's definitely not. They're here to protect us. Because at the same time, like it's hard to all the videos we've seen of brutality against Black people, like it's hard for me to look at videos of people that look like me being attacked, right? And like you can understand that, like we've been through it, right? And now it's kind of being focused more on the Pride Parade, right? And it's
Is this the
Very
right
difficult.
thing to do then? Is it the right? I mean, I know you're
for the
not.
police to pull out.
I know. I mean, you're one of the straight guys here, so I know that the Pride Parade is not as meaningful to you as it is for others on the panel. But
Maybe.
as a person of color, and do you see Black Lives Matter and what they do and continue to do in terms of fighting against this police inclusion in things like Pride? Do you think that it is the right vehicle to accomplish the goal of better relations between the community and the police?
Okay, the first thing I thought of when they did this was, okay, you know, you're being poked and you're saying, okay, like chill, like stop. Like eventually you're gonna have to fight back, right? This is a good, using Pride as like, all right, like we're not doing this anymore. Like, you know, we're standing up like for ourselves. Like if other people are not gonna help us, then we have to help ourselves. Like, especially like in the Black community, like we all haven't been together, right? And I feel like if this is a way for all of us to get together and stand for something, for like our people, and like I don't want to sound like wild, like militant, but you know, sometimes you have to be, because it gets to a point where it's like
And that is how Pride was born. I mean, we should remember that. That's how Pride came about, was that same sense of, you know, we stand up for ourselves.
So yeah, like I'm always gonna stand for Black Lives Matter, like within reason, because like if my like gay like brothers are not gonna be like, are not gonna feel uncomfortable, like of course I don't want them to feel uncomfortable, right? I want them to feel safe as well, right? And you know, so of course.
But isn't it hypocritical to have cops outside protecting you but not be included in a parade?
Well, according
It's like
to
the whole thing is about guns. You don't want guns to feel unsafe in the parade, but the guns are behind you, like regardless.
Well, again, like you know, we don't feel safe.
Do you
right?
feel safe if the police are patrolling the streets or patrolling, you know, Pride in the Pride Zone or other festivals? Do you have the same feeling of unsafety? Because Pride Toronto put it in the context of they have to have the cops there because it's law, right? Cops patrolling. Yeah. But in terms of taking part in the celebration, that's not proper. I mean, and this gets back to me. I mean, I'm probably the oldest person on this panel, but I remember a time when the relationship between the gay community and the police were awful, and that's part of what Pride was fighting back. I mean, Stonewall was fighting back against the police. The equivalent in Canada was the bathhouse raids in 1981, and that was fighting against the police. So in one sense, I say, oh, well, isn't it great that we've repaired that relationship, that the cops are actually celebrating with us? At the same time, Pride is fighting back against the police, so is it right for Black Lives Matter and Pride to be fighting against the police on that?
22
yeah.
kind of. Right?
Thoughts?
So I think it's a couple things. So First of all, I don't think it is wrong in any way for for Black Lives Matter or people of color to be making the arguments that they're making with regards to oppression. Racism did not go away with Rosa Parks. Racism did not go away with Martin Luther King. Racism did not go away when slavery was made illegal. Racism, it did not just disappear. It's what's happened is it's become more, I think, subliminal in some ways, and that or we're just not paying as much attention to it. And then the attempts that many people of color have, when they have tried to band together and to bring this to politicians, it has been a very white-dominated, systemic. Politically, but also within these organizations that have made a lot of decisions that have not necessarily been as helpful. And there's been a lot of consultations and reports, and then not necessarily the action behind it. So I don't think that they are wrong in wanting to push that forward and being very upset that it hasn't happened. I think that that's a shame on our society for having not addressed that, and that we've got to this point. I don't think that it is okay, though, to be saying, first of all, the hypocrisy of the police being there in uniform with guns on the side at the request of Pride, by the way. Olivia has stated she's requested it, but also then to not allow them into the parade to celebrate. Remember, police within their own institutions, LGBTQ police have not had an easy time.
Right.
So it's not like their own institutions have been so friendly to them. So for them to be able to celebrate with their own peers in the parade and to be saying that's not allowed now, and then to be using the tactic of, oh, well, they can be out of uniform when Pride knows darn well that that's not possible. It has never been possible. That to me is just divisive.
We have to wrap this up, but and Gordon, I'm going to throw this to you again because I've heard members of Black Lives Matter saying people such as Bryn who take this position are racist. I ask this with absolute sincerity. Is this position a racist position?
It's definitely not, right? It's just two different viewpoints, right? Like,
so is it helpful then? That's a loaded question, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Is this man a racist?
No,
Please let me know.
because
I'm
I
okay
hear
with it.
that. I hear that. How do we stop the name calling so that we actually have the dialogue and discussion?
Because I've been called a racist and a white supremacist probably about 5,000 to 10,000 times in the last month to 2 months.
okay, I'll tell. Okay, stop doing that. That's
Stop calling him a racist. Let's just talk about. So
do that.
what do you want to have an alternative parade this year? Do you want to have another alternative parade? What is your end goal?
So what's happened by coincidence is that the city has approved for a second an emergency action plan and the permits from the police for the noise to do another parade at the exact same time, exact same date, exact same location. So it's kind of ironic because it's sort of without precedent in the city that this has happened.
For this year?
For this year. So for June 25th, it was just approved the day of the motion. This past Friday, I got the email from the city, the emergency planning.
So do you want to have another parade? Will we see another parade this
So
parade
what
this
I'm
year?
looking at currently is bringing together first responders to do something at Pride, not within the Pride confounds, because the police have said that they won't do that, and I don't want to be confrontational, but perhaps over on Gloucester Street. So Ryan Doyle from
in the
News
village,
Talk
in the gay
1010
neighborhood,
has said he'll put his weight behind it if we can bring
Okay.
all first responders over on Gloucester by the fire hall.
Well, we'll see what happens, and maybe at our live season finale we can get the head of Pride Toronto and maybe even somebody from Black Lives Matter Toronto in to talk with us as well. Thank you, Bryn, for
you,
talking
sir.
about this. You're gonna hang out with us for a bit and play with us for the rest of the show. And now for something completely different. It's time for Tito's Midpoint.
Miss you, Tito.
This week we're playing On Point, and it's going to be fashion from the Billboard Music Awards that happened 2 weekends ago. We're going to start with the co-host, which was Vanessa Hudgens.
Yes.
That's classy.
Jeez.
High School Musical.
She looks
I just love her
the
in general.
baddest.
Oh, so she killed it with her hosting. She sang Celine, she rapped Nicki.
Didn't she
was
rap
amazing.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she rapped Monster, which is
Oh,
like
yeah.
the best.
I'm a motherfucking monster.
Yeah, everybody said everybody's on board with that.
Love.
Yeah, that's
Next,
a good look.
next we have Queen Haley Steinfeld.
I don't even know who she is.
Are you?
And I get hung up on the name Steinfeld.
Because it's Seinfeld.
Yeah,
I
it
know. I
bo-
did that too.
It bothers me.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld?
I don't.
She's the one, I didn't know I was starving till I tasted you.
Yeah, such a good
What?
She's an actress.
That's
she
the
was,
song.
Like,
That's terrible.
She was nominated for an Oscar when she was like 12 or something.
And she did the song Love Myself. No, she
Love
did Love
Myself.
Myself, Love Yourself, which the video is all about, like, oh, looking at yourself in the mirror, and oh, I'm
it's
beautiful.
secretly
Just
about
but
masturbation.
the lyrics are all about masturbation.
Okay. Word.
How
you
old
like
is
it?
she? Does her mother know? I don't like that dress.
She is
I
bored.
don't either.
I don't like that
That's
dress.
off.
Either.
We don't like it?
No.
I don't like that dress.
Too
For the
busy.
shape.
I like it just because
Yeah.
I like her.
It's not
so
about the
bored.
person, it's about the fashion.
She has a new music video out and she looks so
Okay, next.
stunning. I die
Okay,
every time.
he could talk the whole show
Next we
about
have
Haley
Noah
Steinfeld.
Cyrus.
That's Miley's
Miley's
sister, right?
younger sister. She's 17.
Ooh.
Nope.
She looks kind of like Rumor Willis, circa like 2008.
I'm not gonna say ew, but
No. It's kind of like a female Bruce Willis. So.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
She seems sweet though. She's a sweet kid from
Oh,
what
I'm
I saw.
sure.
But
Yeah, the look is pretty
the
simple.
outfit is not.
It's
good.
not a sweet
yeah,
outfit.
that ain't
Like
cute.
it looks like she just put the bra on and forgot the shirt.
Right.
Well, she's following in her sister's footsteps.
Yeah. But her sister has said, "I'm done with all that
Yeah, she
crazy."
is.
Yeah.
Pass,
Okay.
pass it down.
Next we have John Legend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Do we think he
What a
looks
gentleman.
Yes, that
yeah.
is.
Really?
that
I don't like the suit.
Really? The double-breasted, the sleek plaid.
I'm not crazy about that
Oh,
suit.
Actually, you know what? I'm
No,
gonna
on.
I'm gonna change.
It's a.
I like
No.
John Legend, but I don't like that.
No,
it's too
I-
like it's too like 80s.
I'd wear it.
It looks like a
I
suit
think
that
it suits
RuPaul
him.
would wear.
It suits him. Yeah,
him.
I think he looks.
Not everybody could pull that off, but I think he
Right.
does.
Yeah.
And I would pull it off him.
RuPaul wear a suit.
Yeah, it looks like something RuPaul would wear. What is it?
All the
Klein,
time?
Parker, and Epstein. He plugs it like every show. That's what that looks like.
Next we have Leah Michelle,
Oh,
styled by Brad Goreski.
Yeah. No, I like that.
that is
Classy.
so
That's
much.
nice. That's very
Classy.
classy. Very classy.
What
Yeah.
award show is this? Is it a
Billboard Music
singing
Awards.
thing?
Music Awards.
Okay,
Is it a what?
His music.
a singing thing.
Singing.
One of
Yeah, I
those
love
singing
it.
Music. Yeah. No, that very classy.
Yeah.
Next we have Rita Ora. Unfortunately, this was not the greatest for me.
Oh
that's an ew.
No.
What is that? That's interesting.
It looks like she went to the costume shop for like, old
looks-
Merchant and Ivory films and just grabbed.
I don't get
Like
what's
she's wearing
going on with
fishnet
this
or something.
schmata on top.
It's total schmata. Next, we don't like fat.
Okay, next we have Kate Beckinsale.
Yes.
You didn't even see
I don't
it.
even care. I know I did. I saw it today because I watched like this
wow.
part. It's so random, and I love her.
She looks
Actually,
great.
I
but
do like that. I like it.
I feel like it was a little over the top for the award show that it was for.
I like it
but
too
Too much is never enough.
I know.
That's-
I mean, she
I
looks
like
great.
it.
I
like
think that
it
looks
too.
awesome.
Just looks like
She
Katy
is
Perry's
just
fireworks all
stunning.
over.
I hope she didn't sneeze.
Why?
I think stunning is a good word for
It
that.
would-
Actually, that's
Like one sneeze and it's all over. Go.
It's Boob City.
Next we have Jason Derulo.
I'm into it.
No one else could pull that off but him.
Jason
I'm gonna say
Derulo.
yes.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I'm gonna say yes.
Sick.
I like
Is
that.
it velvet?
It is velvet. I
Of
think.
course it is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
On him, yeah.
You
that
guys
works.
like this?
I
Yeah.
want to go and touch it.
George Costanza style.
Oh, it's George Costanza. Yeah, I just want to rub it. I want to rub
wanna rub
Jason
me,
Derulo.
don't you?
Oh, that's okay.
Next we have a look that I like, but most people don't. It's Halsey.
Everybody's very
People-
silent on this one. Wow.
So her
I
bra,
don't know.
everybody had an issue with her bra, but I mean, it's supposed to look over the top, like underneath.
What's the issue?
No, the problem is there's nothing over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like those heels with the top, just
No.
like so good.
It looks very incomplete.
I love it.
No.
Really? Yes.
love it, yeah.
Thank you.
I like the bottom.
It's like
that like. What,
it's like
is that a
girls dressed in
jacket she has tied
fireman
around?
uniforms.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know
So I
what's
think
so
that
good about
looks
it, but I
good,
love
it
it.
needs a
it's like a
little more-
trench coat skirt.
Yeah.
A trench coat without the coat.
Well, it's like remember when Priyanka Chopra walked
Yeah,
the
but
Met Gala?
she's
But it's
just
like
wearing her
mini.
bra. Okay,
It's like she was
next.
getting dressed and somebody
Yeah.
took a picture in the middle of the
Exactly.
I'm lukewarm on that.
Next we have this is the last one. It's my Latina queen, Camila Cabello.
She looks, yeah.
Yeah, that looks good.
Oh yeah.
That looks good.
very
Red is good on
elegant.
her.
She performed her new single, and she was amazing.
I hated that performance.
What? You didn't even watch it.
I just did. Today.
I can't believe
just did.
you missed it yet again, but
The black hair and the
Saint
red.
Celine.
You know what? When I was watching it,
I know,
We have
I really-
this week in
Incredible.
Celine news. Yes, Tegan.
Oh, she looked amazing, and she didn't wear a crazy shirt this time.
I totally forgot to include her in this, but that outfit was insane.
Okay, well maybe we can get a photo of Queen Celine.
Yeah.
It was
Queen
insane.
Her stylists are like killing
Cindy
it
on.
lately.
I love Celine. She's my diva.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's my diva. Anyway, thank you, Tito, for today's
Thanks,
midpoint.
Teets.
And that brings us to talking point number 2, foul balls. Okay. So,
Like smelly or what?
Kevin Pillar, who is an outfielder with the Toronto Blue Jays, he made national news for calling Atlanta Braves reliever an Atlanta Braves reliever a faggot during
I just hate that word.
during
Makes me cringe.
a game because he was very angry. In fact, Toronto lost that day 8-4 against Atlanta. He did
Good reason to be angry.
he did apologize and he was suspended for 2 games. The question is, and I want to go down the line, is that the proper punishment?
Yes. I mean, some people are so offended by words. It all comes down to the intention of those words. Like, if I were to say that in a joking manner, it would not be that.
Well, yes, but
it's still,
it was out of anger during the game.
yeah, that's not cool. So I totally think that's justified.
Is too.
I don't watch sports.
So they
so
were
I don't-
actually- the
how
MLB did
how
you know
big
that?
is it? How many games are there in a year?
162.
So 2
Oh,
is not.
yeah, baseball has a.
But
it's not
the
fair.
the MLB actually didn't suspend him. It was the Blue Jays.
It was the Blue Jays, yes.
organization. Yeah. So
Maple Leaf Sports.
good on them. No.
Wait, like,
It's
was
not,
this-
It's not Maple Leaf Sports.
was
It's
this
not.
like seen?
No, it's
But
Rogers.
should
I believe.
should MLB
Yeah, I guess
should
they
Major
heard
League Baseball have stepped in to do something about it?
Okay, well, yeah, because like the players represent like the league, right? So like, of course.
I think so as well.
Yeah, but is a 2-game suspension enough?
It depends on how big of a player he is, I guess. If he's like
pretty-
the player,
pretty
then-
important.
Yeah, so like taking him out would be. But for
I mean,
2 out of like 100 is nothing.
I had never. I mean, I don't follow baseball all that much, but I had never heard of Kevin Pillar. But Jose Bautista, he's a bigger star. If he would have done something like that, maybe it should have been a higher thing. But
But that's just a word some people just
why?
like blurt
I mean,
out
but
all
it's
the time.
why is it still acceptable in sports that guys use? Why?
It's like when people say that's so gay, and I really hate it, but it's like sometimes I don't correct them.
But he gave a really heartfelt apology
absolutely.
afterwards, a very heartfelt one. I think that has to count for something, right? Like, I mean, if he was just dismissive of it and didn't apologize, or if his apology was very empty, then I think that would be indicative of what kind of a punishment he needed. But he came out with a very heartfelt apology, acknowledged that that is not the type of person he wants to represent. That's not how he feels, and that was a stupid thing to say. And I'll tell you, if I had to get suspended for something for every stupid thing I've said, I don't know, my life would be a constant suspension. So I think I think it was fair.
Yeah, I've actually I played sports all my life, and like in the heat of the moment, I've said some things that I completely regret as well. But I mean, like you don't even know what you're saying sometimes, so sometimes it just comes out. Unfortunately,
But then it's like it's just a game,
it
relax.
happens. Yeah.
I know that's when it's professional. There's a lot of money
Yeah, man, like, there's a
involved.
lot. Yeah, like this is these guys' livelihood.
He said he's
That's all they
sorry. I
know.
think it's time. Give him. We got to forgive. We don't make allies by beating up on people that are sorry.
Well, but maybe you just sue them. Richard Simmons.
Well done.
Richard
a
Simmons.
good transition.
Who is still a good transition.
that was a great-
yes, a good transition. So, the National Enquirer and the Radar Online have labeled Richard Simmons as transgender, as a transgender woman, and so Richard Simmons is suing. Saying it's defamation of character. Now he says in the law about the lawsuit that it is his legal right to insist that he not be portrayed as someone who he is not. Okay, but the legal definition of defamation says that it's hurting you and it's a negative. You have to show that it's a negative in order for it legally to be defamation. Some people are angry at him, saying, "Why are you saying being called transgender?"
It's
You know,
negative.
so like if there was something in the media that said you were gay and you're not gay, is that defamation?
No.
So is this defamation? And go.
No.
I actually.
Well, as an actor, if you're not getting jobs because of it, then maybe it is.
Yeah, but I don't think that would happen.
I mean, every actor would people who say he's gay. So.
I feel like they've ragged on him for so long for so many different things, and I feel like the tabloids, when they accuse someone of being trans, it's an insult. It's not dignified to trans people. So if he wants to go after them and kind of set a precedent, I support that.
Maybe it's defamation against trans people.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I was just going to say that.
That's totally how I felt when I heard he was suing. Like, I just feel it's so undignified to trans people that, like, the National Enquirer will make this up.
Yeah. I mean, it's the National Enquirer, too. Like,
Yeah.
It's real news.
That's where I get all my news.
That's where Donald Trump gets all his news.
Yeah, allegedly.
Well, I don't understand, because Richard Simmons is quoted in that article talking about it, but I thought he's in hiding and not talking to anybody. So how is he filing lawsuits if he's in hiding? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know anything about
endpoints. Tito,
Bop of the week. Okay, I have 4 bops of the week because last week.
you've done a lot of bopping.
Listen, music came out
She
all
bop.
at once, and I couldn't just choose one.
Okay,
All right, we have Selena Gomez, Bad Liar came out, and then we have Katy Perry featuring Nicki Minaj. It's called Swish Switch. It's fucking amazing. And then we have Iggy Azalea featuring Anita, and it's called Switch. And then, of course, Camila Cabello, Crying in the Club. Download it, buy it.
Switch
Because it's
and swish, swish.
Swish, Swish, and Switch.
Swish, swish.
And Crying in the Club. Crying in the
Bish.
Club is the most important. Crying in the Club, Camila Cabello, I love you.
You realize
Because that resonates with you? You do that a lot?
You realize that Andrew, who does all of our editor, who does all the lower thirds on the
Yes.
screen, you just made his head spin by how quickly you did that. I'm just saying.
Anyway, you'll figure it out.
Anyway,
Oh, and I have something else to say that you were about to say. But I want to say happy birthday to Tegan.
oh, okay.
When's your birthday?
Today.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mine's on
Happy
Thursday.
birthday.
A brilliant-
Gemini.
Yeah, we're
Gemini.
birthday
Well, my
buddies.
birthday-
birthday's
too.
next month.
I'm a Gemini,
Gemini.
too.
Gemini.
June 18th.
All of us.
Gemini. No, Gemini. Yours- no Gemini.
overrun.
Okay, I have some announcements to make
Happy
before
birthday.
before
Happy birthday.
we
Thank
fully
you.
celebrate Tegan's birthday. So I am actually headed to New York to be on another show to represent The Point.
Oh.
So it is called The Late Live Show at Night with Dylan Fisher. The Late Live Show at Night with Dylan Fisher. It's a Facebook Live only show. So they're not on, like we do YouTube and Reverie and all that stuff, but they're just on Facebook, Facebook Live. They're facebook.com/late live show at night, and the show will be live on Facebook Live Monday, June 5th at 10 p.m. Eastern. The Late Live Show at Night with Dylan Fisher. So there you go.
Brilliant.
Monday, June 5th.
Love it.
We're going to
Also-
watch you talk some more then.
That's right. You're going to watch me talk some more. And Dylan's straight, and so I think we're going to do a battle of the gay straight. Also, our live season finale, we announced it last show. Remember, it is Nuit Rose, the Festival of Queer Art and Performance. Our live season finale will be part of Nuit Rose, Saturday, June 17th, starting at 7 p.m. at the 519 Community Center, which is 519 Church Street, in the Church Wellesley Village in Toronto. More details to come, so keep updated on our Facebook page and all of that. Now, I have to, Tito, tell everybody again how wonderful Tegan is for
Tegan's amazing and hilarious, and we're so happy that he's
Okay.
taking over from Matt.
So, of course, we are on Reverie, the world's largest online LGBT online streaming service at reverie.tv. Our crowdfunding site is Patreon, patreon.com/thepointguys. I'm making a mess of the frosting
Want me
here.
to like help you?
Yeah, you do that.
Amazing. I was just going to watch you struggle.
iTunes, we're on iTunes. Find us there for the audio podcast. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, please, please, please subscribe to us. Tito told me that the button thing is changed. Somewhere below us is some button that says subscribe. So just press that button.
really
press
tasty.
Tito's red button. It'll make him feel better. Of course, our website for everything The Point is
So
thepointguys.net. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all those other social media things. Social media things. Thank you, Bryn Hendricks. Thank you, everybody else. There's the cake for Tegan. Happy
you, guys.
birthday,
Happy
Tegan.
birthday. Thank you.
We have a new show every Tuesday, so we will see you next Tuesday on The Point.
Woo!